Well, look here, over here on Lower Alabama Chicken. It's a Facebook group on Facebook, of course, that I belong to. It deals with not just chickens, but ducks and other type poultry or fowl or whatever you want to call them like that. I don't know really what the difference is in poultry and fowl. I think if the bird is alive, it's fowl, FOWL, and if it becomes food, I think they refer to it as poultry. But I couldn't swear to that. What I know, I just raise them and send them off to freezer camp when they get old enough, which I'm about to have to go out there and do here ASAP. They're about to eat me out of house and home. And anyway, I see Miss Rachel Box here posted. Just curious, I'm debating on raising meat birds for my family. Would there be any interest in grown birds that are ready to process? What she's talking about is getting them to be a certain weight where they're ready to process and then selling them to someone to take to their place and process them themselves. She's talking about selling live birds for processing and everything. And so it just reminded me of my days back when I had a whole bunch of birds. Years ago, I had about 400 different birds on my property here. I had ducks, chickens, geese, guineas. Geese are the most obnoxious farm animal I think God ever created. Well, unless you want to call me a farm animal, I might be worse off. But I had turkeys. I even had a couple of peafowl, a peacock and a peahen on the property. Had a bunch of different birds on the property. Had a lot of fun. My boys I had at home at the time, they don't seem to share the same enthusiasm and fond memories of them, but I don't care. Anyway, so just wanted to say, not just to Miss Rachel Box here, but I hear a lot of people who aren't really experienced at raising food, whether it be chickens or rabbits or ducks or geese or turkeys or hogs or cattle or any other kind of food on their property. A lot of times people, they just consider or they assume, well, I can raise my own food and it'll be cheaper. It's not. Okay, it's not cheaper. It's actually, you'll be doing lucky if you even break even on the money. Chances are you're going to lose money if you raise your own food on the land. Why is that? Well, the culture and society has shifted. Used to, people raise their own foods because it was cheaper than going out to eat, or it was cheaper than going to the grocery store a lot. You raise your own food on your land. Hank Williams Jr. had that song, my daddy taught me how to live off the land, and his daddy taught him to be a businessman. Remember, he was taught to live off the land. If you're out there hunting and you ain't spending a whole bunch of money on your hunting gear, then you're out there fishing, but you're not spending a whole bunch of money on your fishing gear, then you might be able to live off the land like that. Plant your little old garden, something like that. But if by live off the land, you mean raising your own farm animals, you're looking at a whole bunch of time. You're looking at some equipment you're going to need to take care of them, and that food ain't cheap, you see. So by the time you do all of that, and then you process that animal, and then you calculate how many dollars per pound of actual food you get to put in your freezer, you might, depending on the animal you raise and how you go about it, you might end up breaking even. But chances are you're going to spend more money raising that animal on your own land than you will if you just go to Publix. So what advantage is it? Well, you know how that animal was raised if you raised it yourself. You know whether it's been given antibiotics, you know what kind of feed it's been given, you know what kind of living conditions you've raised it in. And my birds, well, all of my animals, I raised them on the ground. Okay, even my hogs, I raised them on the ground. Hogs that you buy in the store and chickens and such that you buy in the store, they were raised on concrete, or they were raised in cages up off of the ground. And that means that the bird didn't get the microbes and all that kind of stuff. I'm not a scientist, right? I'm not a scientist, but did not get the minerals and such out of the ground that my animals get. And so that ends up making it, they just taste a little different. So in my opinion, you get a better tasting animal. And if you do it right, you can get a healthier animal that hasn't been chalked up with the hormones and all of that sort of stuff. So that's the advantage. But the chances of you actually getting that food cheaper is a myth. The culture has shifted. The culture shifted on a bunch of stuff like that. Like when I was growing up, my mama sewed a lot of the clothes that I wore. And it was starting to get unusual to be the case, even in the 80s. But she sewed a lot of the clothes that I wore. Why is that? Well, it was cheaper. Not the case anymore. By the time you go buy you a sewing machine and the stuff you need and all of the little sewing notions and the patterns and stuff like that, you better off just going over here to Belk and buying you an outfit. What's the advantage if you sew your own? Well, you can alter them as needed, so they're typically going to fit better, and you can make sure the quality of the fabric and the stitching and all that sort of stuff. So you might end up with a higher quality outfit, but you certainly are not going to save money by sewing your own clothes. And it's the same way when it comes to the old time crafts of homesteading and raising your food in your backyard. Now, my backyard's about 3 acres. I live on 5 acres, so my ducks and chickens. We got like 45. We don't have chickens. Why don't I say chickens? We have about 45 ducks out there in the duck house right now. Last spring we started with 10 of them. So they're all Muscovies. And Muscovies are hoes, man. They make a lot of babies. They like to make a lot of babies. So I got to get out there and get some feathers flying here pretty quick before they eat me out of house and home. But at any rate, Miss Rachel Box and anybody else who's considering going into the animal raising business, I enjoy it. I enjoy the raising, I enjoy the process, and I enjoy shipping them off the freezer camp, and I especially enjoy them when they come out of that oven or off of that smoker, whatever the case may be. But if it's a budgetary consideration, you're going to be sorely disappointed.